There was a suggestion Princess of Wales's red dress could have been a show of support.
I mean, these outfits don't happen by chance.
It's a great selection. He gives everything. He gives
I was going to say, it's
everything
pretty
to
energetic.
I could only watch one episode. I was just bored with it all.
The greatest love of all is the one that a person has for herself. Ouch.
I danced with Camilla once, and when we finished, she said, "Oh, we should go on Strictly Arthur." She said, "But don't tell the king."
8%.
Oh,
Guys, should we
it's
do
that
ourselves out
high.
of a job? Should we not be talking about them?
I'm surprised it's that high, actually. 8%.
Hello, I'm The Sun's royal editor, Matt Wilkinson, and this is Royal Exclusive. Today, we welcome to the studio The Sun's legendary photographer, Arthur Edwards, and royal correspondent, Sarah Hewson. Guys, it's been a really happy week, I think, seeing the Prince and Princess of Wales at the Commonwealth ceremony. I'm just going to say, they just looked so happy. There were so many smiles from the pair of them, and it was such a welcome sight. I've been on a few jobs recently, and I do think they look happy and positive. But what do you guys think about the Commonwealth Day ceremony this week? It was a happy event, right?
I thought it was. I thought the pictures of them in the paper was just sensational, them laughing at each other. And I've seen that a lot, and they just seem to be a very switched-on couple. And, that you call it a look of love, what you want to call it, but it's just genuine affection for each other, and the fact that, I remember when she first started, Catherine, in this business, and she was very nervous, and William would all the time go up and comfort, and give her confidence. Obviously now she's a shining star. She's probably the biggest star in the royal family, and it reflects when you open the paper in the morning, and then she's on the front, she's in the page 4 or 5, and in most papers. So it was a great event. And that Commonwealth service, I mean, I remember the last one that Meghan went to, and she couldn't get away quick enough, and then she went straight to the airport and flew to Canada, and really never really came back, just briefly for a few little visits. But Commonwealth service, I think, is important, especially to the King, and he values the Commonwealth greatly. And every few years we go to a different part of the world where they have a conference, and everybody turns up for it. Everybody cares about it. That's in the Commonwealth. Wonder sometimes what point of it, but you know what? It seems to work.
It's a really interesting point you made there about previous ceremonies. I remember last year, obviously the Princess of Wales and the King didn't make it.
King had to send a video message because it was just a few weeks before the Princess of Wales was going to reveal her cancer diagnosis. Both of them were undergoing treatment. So to see them back this time was really sensational. And I thought the Princess of Wales wearing that red, really making a statement that I am here, this is really important. And as Arthur said, the two of them laughing together and having a really nice moments between them, and lovely moments as well that we saw between them and the King and Queen. William going up and kissing his dad on both cheeks as he arrived, and Catherine curtsying for the King, but you could see the rapport between them. And I think the thing that we're seeing between the Prince and Princess of Wales, and you've observed it on numerous engagements as well, Matt, is that they've been through a really harrowing ordeal, and you start to realise what matters, and you don't care about the other stuff anymore. And I don't think they're trying to be anything other than what they are now. They're less formal on engagements. They're a bit less guarded. They're more willing to let us in and see who they really are. And I think that's really fantastic to see.
Well, I think when Catherine and William go on jobs, they when she goes to watch a rugby match, she plays rugby with them, and when she's hockey, she plays hockey. She gets involved. So does William. I mean, William is just fantastic, the way he just engages. But then I remember our King. I remember he was a young man. He did exactly the same. And only this week he went to an espresso and he starts to do resuscitation, and he did it with great enthusiasm.
I think it's the affection between them as well, the public displays of affection. If you think about the claims that Meghan has made about them being very standoffish and cold, and actually now, in that video that they released in September to mark the end of Catherine's chemotherapy, very happy to show us them hugging, kissing, a lot of affection between them. And more recently, when they went on that away day to Wales, Kensington Palace released a video of them walking along the station platform, holding hands together, something we probably wouldn't have seen in the past.
Well, do you think that's a deliberate move, Sarah? I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I
think they're more willing to do it.
We're more willing to do it. I'm told that this is the place that they are at the moment. They're in a more kind of confident, happier, relaxed atmosphere after everything that's happened. This is where they are in life. I mean, it seems, dare I say, it seems more stress-free at the moment after seeing the royals at the Commonwealth ceremony.
I think that's the thing about prioritising what really matters and what doesn't. And, you know, they are, Catherine making her return to work, but focusing on the things that are really important to her and to the monarchy as a whole. And Commonwealth Day, as we know, is a very, very important day in the royal calendar. And I was thinking about that interview that Jason Knauf did when he talked about, you know, when you're doing PR for senior members of the royal family, you can't create an image in this social media age. All you can do is try and help them show themselves to best effect. You can't pretend to be anything else. And I think what we are now seeing is themselves at their best.
I think you're right there. I mean, certainly since she went back to work, she's absolutely, and also I think she looks $1 million. I mean, Christmas Day up at Sandringham, I mean, she was the star. Like, the people didn't want to let her go. I mean, crowds were crazy to see her, crazy to sort of shake hands with her. It was quite incredible, and so people were so pleased to see that she'd recovered. I think that in itself, as you said earlier, when the cancer comes along, nothing else matters. And when you get the all clear, as you say, it's time to celebrate and time to be happy. And then going back to work, she's just thrown herself into it, and it's just been amazing.
And Arthur, I wonder as well, seeing the reaction of the crowds as she started to come back to those public duties is a massive confidence boost to her as well, isn't it? I think, you know, absence makes the heart grow fonder. We realised last year just how vital she is to the institution of the monarchy and what happens when she's not around. And that's got to help her in terms of the way in which she feels when she's out on those public engagements, when she's making speeches, for example, when she's with people. You get a lot from the response of the public.
It's nice to have a bit of a positive atmosphere.
Yes.
You forget how dark it was at times last year, and it's nice to just recognise these events and just say, you know, William and Catherine, you looked great, you looked happy, and we kind of welcome that. We talk about the Commonwealth itself. We talked about previous ceremonies that have been, you know, the Queen hasn't turned up occasionally. Last year we didn't have the Princess of Wales and the King. Is it still relevant, do you think, the Commonwealth? We have a lot of viewers here on this show from Australia and from Canada, and we did have the King go out to Australia and to Samoa with the Queen last autumn. How relevant is the Commonwealth, do you think, currently at the moment?
I asked myself that question. I don't know really, Matt. All I think is that it's something the Queen absolutely loved, and really felt very precious to her. And I think the King's carrying on that. I mean, think of the people in it. I mean, Canada and little places, Malta, and even like Jersey and Guernsey are part of the Commonwealth. And you think it's sort of all these countries have this meeting every couple of years, and they all get together and they discuss things. I suppose it's healthy, and I suppose it's good. And the fact that the King is carrying on like his mother did, and giving it everything. And in fact, if we ever get onto his music, I mean, even his music was Commonwealth. You know, there were countries from Guinea, Ghana, New Zealand, Australia. I mean, everybody, all countries are represented, and I think he thought about that on Commonwealth Day and his Commonwealth message and his Commonwealth music. And so I think he thinks it's important. And I mean, he very carefully thought about his speech this year, his Commonwealth speech. You know, he got involved in uncertain times and things like that. And you were saying earlier, Sarah, about, you know, he thought maybe it was a bit too political. I don't know if it was or not.
I think there's a difference between the politics and the diplomacy, and we have seen the King having to do an awful lot of international diplomacy lately. The invitation to President Trump, the meeting with President Zelensky, the meeting with outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And you know, he's having to tread a pretty fine line at the moment between the interests of the United Kingdom, of which he's head of state, wanting to shore up those ties with the United States, the interests of Canada, of which he is also head of state, and Canada, of course, facing threats of Donald Trump wanting to make it the 51st state. And then we've got Australia, another Commonwealth country, considering whether it should form part of a coalition of the willing to help Ukraine. And so I think that was the theme of the King's message and at the forefront of his mind on Commonwealth Day. Look, we're very different. We're a very diverse family of nations, but let's not focus on the differences. Let's focus on the strength that comes from those ties and that friendship, particularly in these turbulent times.
And he spent a lot of time with President Zelensky. And I would have loved to know what they talked about, but I know the King would have been totally on his side. You know, that would be, because he's an amazing man, the King. And as you say, Trudeau. I mean, Trudeau made this amazing speech about Donald Trump, and I mean, I think the King would probably have agreed with him, but we'll never know.
You mentioned Canada there.
Yeah.
There was a suggestion I read somewhere that the Princess of Wales's red dress could have been a show of support for Canada. Are we reading too much into
I
that?
hadn't thought about that, but if you remember when Justin Trudeau was over and visited, I think it was Windsor Castle, just after Russia had invaded Ukraine, the late Queen had blue and yellow flowers in a huge bowl behind Prime Minister Trudeau, and that was a very deliberate show of support for Ukraine. So perhaps, I mean, these outfits don't happen by chance.
They often leave these little Easter eggs for us, and I just wonder if it was a little deliberate support for Canada. But she's not political. Princess of Wales doesn't get into that kind of business.
But she's been to Canada.
Yeah,
and she loved it there. So look. You know, this is never going to happen. They're going to be the 51st state, but you know, I mean, it's just crazy times at the moment, and we just got to just sort of ride the storm. And I think the King having Zelensky and Trudeau, I think it was a masterstroke, and you know, letting everybody know that this country supports these people.
But one that apparently irritated Donald Trump, who was feeling a little less special about his invitation after seeing the photographs of President Zelensky at Sandringham, kind of like that sort of jealous child in the playground, not wanting his mate to play with anyone else. Yeah. But, you know, that was very much a gesture of a metaphorical arm around Ukraine, really, after that very bruising encounter in the Oval Office.
Just a quick one before we do move on to the King's playlist, which I'm quite excited about talking about. We can't leave the Commonwealth alone without talking maybe about Harry and Meghan. They were Commonwealth ambassadors until that was taken away from them. Do you think they could have had a role in supporting the Commonwealth, or do you think it was a missed opportunity, or are we better off just not having them involved in this kind of role?
They were Commonwealth Youth Ambassadors, weren't they? And the late Queen saw the potential in Harry and Meghan to really reach out to people that the rest of the royal family were unable to reach. And there were certainly considerations about whether or not Harry and Meghan could have a role in one of the Commonwealth countries. And as Arthur was saying, that final appearance they made as working royals, the 2020 Commonwealth Day Service. And if you think to how relations were then compared to how they are now, there was that very difficult moment when it became clear that Harry and Meghan were not going to be part of the procession of the senior members of the royal family walking into Westminster Abbey. Because they'd stepped down, they were going to have to find their seats like all of the more junior members of the royal family. And because this hadn't gone down very well, then William and Catherine opted to step out of the procession themselves in a kind of conciliatory gesture. I feel like we're a long way from those kind of gestures now.
I remember that happening because it was actually in the order of service.
It's already printed in the order of service.
You're right, that probably wouldn't happen now, but they probably wouldn't come to the Commonwealth ceremony now.
But William, I just want to say about Harry was a great person with young people. It was a great appointment by the Queen because with young people, I remember we went to Jamaica and the young people, they were just going crazy for him. You know, he was a great ambassador for.
And I think Meghan would have been a huge asset to the Commonwealth as well.
Yeah, they would have been. Yeah.
Okay. So Arthur, what does Beyonce, Bob Marley, and Kylie Minogue have in common? You know the answer to this.
Well, the answer is that it's part of the King's playlist, Commonwealth playlist, which you know, I've looked at it so many times and listened to it, and I'm amazed at some of it, you know, because it's all Commonwealth. It's like Ghana, Guinea, Montserrat, you know, one my favourite song in that thing was Hot, 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 you know. Every time you go to the West Indies, everybody's playing Hot, Hot, Hot. And it's a fabulous song. You want to get up and dance to it. And
I think the King said you do feel hot, 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 don't you, when you get up and dance to this one?
You know, it's a great selection. And I remember when Kylie Minogue sang that to him at St James's Palace, him and Camilla, it was a great night. Just a little performance, about 3 or 4 songs, and you know, naturally we'd have her, you know, and I just think it's pop, and it's some of the music, some of the songs are in the languages of the country. So I think he's just included everybody. I think he's got it right. Whether he listens to some of them, I don't know, but you know, if he listens to Hot, Hot, Hot and songs like that, I can see why he loves dancing, and he does love dancing. I mean, when the music starts up, he wants to dance, and I've seen him dance all over the world. I've seen him. I remember dancing with some people in Canada. It's an Indian reservation, or what we say, First Nation reservation. I've seen him dance with them. I've seen it, you know, him dance, doing a rain dance in India.
You and I were in the Amazon rainforest, I think, in 2009,
when he was
swirling with the girl wearing a bikini top and a skirt.
I remember that one. I remember when he did the Mexican flag dance obviously in Mexico, and
I think he did Carnival in Rio in the 1978 or something like that.
Well, I know he did. I know he did the tango in Argentina, and but. You know, I've seen him dance everywhere. I remember when last time I went to Ireland with him, he did Irish dancing. Him and Camilla lined up, and they were doing it. And he gives everything. I
was going to say, it's pretty energetic.
Oh, he gives everything to it. You know, and he said if you're dancing's okay if you've got rhythm, and he's got really great rhythm. And remember, the first time I saw him dance was in Australia in 1983 when he danced with Diana. Oh, and you know, it was just amazing. And the more I love you, the more I want you, the more I need you. And they were, it was fantastic. So he's great. And it's, and you know, but when you get hot on, you want to dance.
So were you dancing around your kitchen?
I was dancing around my kitchen. Yeah. So I listened to this when it dropped at 6 o'clock on Monday morning. And I was up early working anyway. And everyone else in the house was asleep. And I put on the playlist. And as it was going on, and we get to Diana Ross at the end. So these were all Commonwealth artists that the King had chosen until the last 2. Bonus tracks, Beyonce, who he said he just could not resist because she is such a fantastic artist, and then Diana Ross, Upside Down. And he said, you know, in his younger days, whenever this played, it was impossible for him not to get up and dance. And he had me dancing around my kitchen. I mean, this was just a really feel-good playlist by the King. And he took us on a bit of a journey about his meetings with all of the various artists. And I like to imagine, I mean, we talked about the King's dancing, but we know that the Queen is a big fan of Strictly Come Dancing. And Camilla, she also joined the Silver Swans, didn't she, in lockdown, ballet dancing. So I wonder if, you know, when these tracks come on at home, at Clarence House or at Highgrove or wherever they may be, whether they get up and have a little dance together.
I danced with Camilla once. And when we finished, she said, we should go on Strictly, Arthur. She said, but don't tell the King.
You know, the curse of Strictly, Arthur.
Yeah, the curse of Strictly, yeah.
What a story.
She's just great. You're right, she's a great dancer. And she knows everything. I've seen her do the cha-cha-cha and all this. But no, when the music starts, the King. I mean, this Indian rain dance, I can't believe it. He went to this village in India where one of his charities had supported them, and they built a dam, and they collected enough water for 2 years. They didn't need to worry for 2 years of any drought. And they started this rain dance, and he got an umbrella and he started dancing with them. And I mean, it was fantastic. And you know, nothing endears people to people when they join in, do something together, you know. And it's just absolutely amazing. So, no, I mean, Matt, what did you think of it?
Oh, initially, because we went there for the press conference and they started coming out with some of the names, and I was thinking, hang on, Kylie Minogue,
Ray,
Diana Ross, Ray. Does he really listen to these? But the way it was explained, And I thought, well, of course he probably listened to Diana Ross. And the way that he kind of went through, told stories often about his childhood, or, I think there's over 100 years this music dates back around the Commonwealth.
Well,
it made
that
sense
the Queen
to me.
Mother used to play. And
Yeah.
he said, my grandmother used to play this and it really reminds me of her.
Yeah, Al Bowley,
Yeah.
Al Bowley retired in 1941.
Yeah.
So, he plays...
It made sense.
Yeah.
Do you think that, because this was a type with Apple Music or Apple Radio, do you think this is an attempt to... Was it just him doing Desert Island Discs and going through his favourite songs, or was this attempt to reach out to a different type of audience or younger people or a medium of communication?
Yeah, I think it probably was. And I think it was quite effective in doing so because we get to see a different side to the King and we get to see a perhaps more unexpected side. And yes, of course, some of those artists have got tie-ups with Apple and it's very good for them to be on it. A lot of the artists that he chose have also worked with him on charitable endeavours like the King's Trust, formerly the Prince's Trust. Our understanding is, Matt, isn't it, that he was given a long list of tracks and then he listened to them all, went through them and selected his personal favourites. And then the anecdotes around why those artists mattered to him. So it's a bit of Desert Island Discs, it's a bit of reminiscence from the King, but it's also a very effective way of reaching a different kind of audience.
I think he had fun doing it.
Yeah, you can see that.
You can see, you can hear from his voice,
Yeah.
and you think he had fun doing it. Now, Arthur, last week we spoke about With Love Meghan, and we discussed whether there could possibly be a second series. We've kind of got a second series. It's not really. They filmed it all in one, and they will show us the remaining episodes later this year. Is this a win for Meghan? Or is she clutching kind of a victory from what is effectively a defeat due to all the heavy, terrible reviews she's received?
I've not seen one good review yet. I've seen some of the columnists rip into her and the show. I could only watch one episode. I was just bored with it all. But someone must be liking it. I'll say, what a second series. I
think the point is that they've already filmed these episodes.
Yeah,
and
so
Meghan's gone on to Instagram and highlighted that she's got a second series. But is that really the case?
Well, I think in PR terms, it allowed her to go on and do this sort of video, and she's doing a celebratory dance and saying there's going to be a second series. But it turns out it was filmed at the same time.
Didn't know that, yeah.
So they can't really change too much of the content and learn the lessons from the feedback on these episodes. Now, I think Meghan would have been expecting the negative criticism in the British tabloid press, for example, and here in Britain, but some of it will probably sting more than others. And Variety magazine, I think, if I'll have a look at the quote so I get it right, but it says this show plays out like a forced march, one in which Meghan's guests must, as the price of getting to share an afternoon in a made-for-TV kitchen with her, praise her first. With Love Meghan is made with a great deal of love in the sense that the greatest love of all is the one that a person has for herself. Ouch. That is going to hurt.
The problem with that is that it's not just the toxic British press writing about it. This
Exactly.
is a well-respected magazine and critics and reviews that no doubt her and her team would want to impress and want to, get decent reviews. So that's the kind of thing that I would have thought if that comes across on her desk, that she's going to look at and think, we've really messed up here.
Well, what are Netflix going to say? That's what I think.
And we still haven't got the product line out there. I checked the website as ever this morning. There's a few of the products on there, the floral sprinkles, the flower petals, the crepe mix and various different jams. They're not on sale yet. They're still coming. The Netflix stores are going to be launching soon. And Netflix in this, as a business, as well as just a TV show, I think it saves face for Meghan that she can get a second series. It didn't bomb after one series. She can say it was recommissioned. But we'll have to see what more there is. Because, having watched all 8 episodes, it's pretty formulaic. Someone
if she
walks
thinks
into the
they're getting
kitchen.
bombed, she must have not been reading the papers or reading the reviews. I think it's been dreadful. Who goes out and picks strawberries and blueberries before you cook breakfast in the morning? Nobody does that, And some of the stuff on there, like making a candle, I thought, well, who makes a candle? It
has spawned so many spoofs and memes,
for
hasn't
me,
it?
was just stupid. With love making a candle. Oh, look, there you put this in there, you clip the wick. I thought, God.
You're probably not her target audience, I'm afraid to say.
Well, who is? That's what I want to know.
The one positive about this
is Jane Moore or Sarah Vine.
Everybody's talking about it, whether or not it's positive, whether a lot of it is mocking this content. Everybody is talking about it and talking about With Love Meghan. And if you, go by the mantra...
Sarah? I think people have... The first couple of days, I think people kind of laughed at it, mocked it. You've seen the memes. I think, such is the world, that things have moved on so quickly. And I think that people are not entirely sure if it got the kind of mass exposure that Netflix probably hoped. I think it's passed and it's kind of turned into just one big general meme.
I think Matt's right there. I think that was like that worst for a week. Right? Everybody was writing about it and reviewing it.
And making memes of it and making their own With Love whatever shows and
but I think we've moved on from there, and I think the show will move on too, and probably Netflix will know if it's going to do any good.
One thing Meghan did move on to, did you see she briefly appeared on the Drew Barrymore show in the United States, where she gave an interview. It was a pre-recorded interview and came out after the show actually appeared on Netflix. No, I'm not expecting you to have watched the Drew Barrymore show because you barely watched the Netflix series itself. But Sarah, did you catch any of this with Drew Barrymore?
I did.
How do you think she came across?
Well, Meghan is a self-professed hugger, and she more than met her match in Drew Barrymore, didn't she? Because Drew Barrymore is so tactile and she's very huggy and sitting very close to her. There was a moment when Drew Barrymore pulled out a picture of herself as a child meeting Princess Diana, and Meghan said she'd have to tell Harry. We heard a bit more about date night for Harry and Meghan and things. But generally speaking, it was a pretty soft interview, wasn't it? Out to a very American audience. Apparently Meghan made cookies and got all her friends and the kids involved to make cookies for the entire audience and crew there. We learnt this week, didn't we, from the crew on the Netflix series that, she bought an ice cream van to come and served them all ice cream for the day, which was reminiscent of one of the things she apparently did at Kensington Palace, although that somewhat backfired, according to the Sussex survivors, who said she didn't allow any of the Cambridge, as they were at the time, any of their staff to be served. So I think she wants us to see her with these, being very generous, being easy to work with, and counter those claims of bullying and Duchess difficult.
After you didn't watch it, did you?
No, I didn't watch it. And everything she says, I think it's all sort of over the top. It never sounds sincere to me. Who talks about your husband like that all the time? And I don't know. She just seems to keep trying to sort of prove herself all the time, and I don't think I'm interested in that. No.
Fine. Well, there is an argument that by appearing on Apple Radio, Apple Music, by appearing on Netflix, it keeps members of the royal family relevant, or keeps them in the relevant sphere and opens them up to different audiences. So we've done a poll this week of Sun readers that have all logged on, and we've asked them who they think are the most relevant royals. So we have the answers. I'm not sure if this will surprise you or not, but let me just go and see. So who is the most relevant royal? Only 8% said it was Harry and Meghan. 15% said King Charles and Queen Camilla, but a whopping 77% said William and Catherine as the most relevant royal. What do you think about that, Arthur?
Well, the thing is, William and Catherine are the future, and the fact that they're a young couple with a young family, and they both look great together, and the fact that they're busy, and Catherine's over her cancer and they're back again. I mean, I'm not surprised about that. I mean, you think about the King, and the Queen, they're kind of, their role's pretty much restricted now. I mean, you can't go anywhere now without, it's all official, and if he goes overseas now, it's all going to be official, state visits and everything. I don't know if it's a surprise to anyone. I mean, if I voted in it, I'd think it was the King and Queen, because I think he's been fantastic. But that's me, and that's my age group. Young people, they think Catherine's like a superstar, which she is, and William is, and they look so good together, and their children are good, and everything about them's great, and the fact that they get involved in everybody's, life, mental health, and all these worthwhile causes. I think, of course, I'm not surprised at that.
But 8% for Harry and Meghan.
Oh, I'm surprised
should we
it's
do
that
ourselves
high.
out of a job? Should we not be talking about them?
I'm surprised it's that high, actually, 8%. I would have thought much more at 2%, but then that's how, if I would vote, I wouldn't even consider them.
I mean, I think if you look at all of the popularity polls as well here in the UK, they are right down at the bottom. I think only Prince Andrew comes beneath them in those polls. If you'd done this polling at the time of their wedding, you'd have had an entirely different result, because hopes were so high that this couple could be the relevant, more modern face of the monarchy. So, I mean, it's no surprise to me that they're there, and that William and Catherine, as the kind of younger working royals, are right at the top. I think we have to remember some of the work, though, that the King and the Queen do, which is really relevant. The work that Camilla has been doing about domestic violence, the work that the King has been doing for a very, very long time on climate change and the environment, wasn't seen as relevant when he first started it.
Well,
it was seen as being completely mad.
You consider, you're right. King's very much a visionary. I mean, he was talking about, as you say, the state of the climate years ago. I mean, nobody else was talking about it. He was talking about organic food. He was talking about complementary medicine, all these things, poor architecture. I mean, he's been an amazing member of the royal family. But, they look great, don't they? William and Catherine look great, and they. Yeah,
I mean, you look at the front pages after Commonwealth Day. Who's on them?
Yeah,
it's the Princess of Wales.
Yeah, exactly.
But if Harry and Meghan, as you pointed out, always come down at the bottom, just above Prince Andrew, always down at the bottom of the popularity stakes, and people don't think they're relevant, should we talk about them less?
Well, actually, we could have asked a question in that poll, couldn't we, about the relevance of other members of the royal family, like Princess Anne or Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, who does amazing work around kind of sexual violence in conflict for women and things like that, but they don't get the headlines.
100% Duchess of Edinburgh Sophie needs more coverage.
Yeah.
I think she's
so
very
too.
relevant.
I think so too. I wish I'd have gone to Nepal with her, really. She was just, she has some great stuff there. I mean, she is an amazing lady too, and William too, Edward too. They're good people.
Right, we've whizzed through our topics, so take a deep breath. We've got our quickfire questions just to finish off, OK?
Yeah, straight to it, Sarah.
So, which royal has the best taste in music?
Ooh.
Oh, let me think.
Well, I mean, I loved the King's playlist, and it was definitely eclectic. We know Prince William is a Taylor Swift fan. He's a Swiftie, isn't he? Yeah. But I'm thinking Princess Diana, Elton John, George Michael, Duran Duran. Yeah. I mean, that was...
Yeah, well, she had, I remember...
That was it for me.
When Princess Diana was talking about how she loved classical music, I remember looking at tapes in her car, and it was Elton John and all sort of popular bands at the time, not one classical music. I mean, she liked music, and she was a good dancer, Diana. She loved dancing too. So, but the King, as you say, the King's playlist is pretty, it's everything for everybody. And but I don't know. I've not heard William what he's interested in.
I think I remember one interview or one comment William made that him and the children, they like to listen to AC/DC Thunderstruck when they get up in the morning.
I wonder on the school run. Yes.
Yeah. So they'll do AC/DC just to get everyone awake
Linkin
and
Park,
up and at 'em.
I think Coldplay. I mean, some you would imagine, but yeah.
Now, this is a really tricky one. What royal-related song would be on your playlist?
Let me think.
Really on the spot on this one. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, mine's a bit. Well, you could have Dancing Queen. That's a bit obvious. What about Royals by Lorde?
Okay.
Yeah, I think Dancing Queen, yeah. I mean, especially as I've danced with the Queen.
Oh, well, there you go. You've got to have that one, Arthur.
Across the board, ABBA. Well done, everyone. Who would you want to see in the kitchen with Meghan?
Ooh.
Jamie Oliver. I think he's a great chef. I think he would leave her for dead. He just gives it to us, and in such a brilliant way. And he's cooking it himself, and I think I would love to see him with her. Yeah, I think
he could teach her how to cook.
I think he'd teach her how to cook. Yeah.
President Trump.
Oh right,
okay. Because then we would have fireworks, and one of the criticisms of With Love Meghan was that it was just a bit bland, and I could safely say that would not be a bland episode.
It would not, and it would have to go out after the 9 o'clock watershed as well.
It would. And I mean, we know neither of them have made any secret of their loathing for each other.
Yeah. Right, and look, Who is your most relevant royal?
I think mine is obviously the King. I've worked with him for over 40 years now, nearly 50 years, and I've really enjoyed it. And I've been to some great places and done some great things. And yeah, he is. And I think he's he's obviously still getting treatment for cancer, and he's determined not to be his legacy to be a sick monarch. He wants to get on and do it, and he's doing so much work and working so hard. I think, yeah, for me, he's relevant because he is, after having the longest apprenticeship ever to be the King, probably only going to be here for a few years, but those few years he's going to make count. So for me, it's him, yeah.
I mean, I think the work that William is doing around homelessness is vitally important, and also around Earthshot, trying to find a positive solution to climate change, which is really important for the younger generation to not just have this climate phobia and fear, but to see something positive. But I think I go back to the Duchess of Edinburgh, Sophie, because she's doing really powerful, gritty work in countries that you don't imagine members of the royal family going to. And she's not doing it for the publicity. She's doing it because it really, really matters to her.
Thanks both. I really appreciated all that. Right, that's all we have time for on this week's Royal Exclusive. Thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments as we do read them, and don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. See you all here back next week.